Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Inside Movies Galore. I'm your host, David Stragan. Here we have another discussion under the theme of second chances. And guess what? It's my turn to host because guess what? It was my shitty movie. Here we have going on about probably Dario Argento's to me worst film. Do I think it is worthy of having a second chance? Let me first begin by saying that this was actually Argento's second film. To his first being the bird with the crystal plumage, and it was filmed in 1971. Its original title was called Il Gatto a Nova Code, which translates to the Cat O' Nine Tails. Let me just begin by reading the IMDb synopsis here. A newspaper reporter and a retired blind journalist try to solve a series of killings connected to a pharmaceutical company's experimental top-secret research projects, and in doing so, both become targets of the killer.
Okay, that's a fair assessment.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think so. In the very beginning of this film, we have a blind man, which we learn that he is kind of a ex-newspaper guy, and he goes around and walks around with this like 6-year-old girl or whatnot, who seems to be very well mannered.
Yes.
To be honest, because she actually comes forward and shakes a few people's hands throughout the whole film. So I think that she is very well behaved as well for a child of her age range.
Cookie and Lori is their names, isn't it?
I believe so,
yeah. Yep. Well, she calls him Cookie, and or because it sounds so sweet. But in any case, let's go with first impressions of this film. Since you've been waiting, Brandon, I'm going to go with you first. Was this a first-time watch for you?
You know, it's interesting. Most Argento films that we've covered, it's the first watch for me because I've never actually seen most Argento movies. So, like I say, it's kind of it's always a new experience. I admit I had certain expectations going into it because, we've watched Deep Red and a few others that are quite, these bloody kind of almost horror pieces. And this one in particular, yeah, well, and this one in particular as something slightly different. I was surprised to probably the better. I actually think this is probably one of my favorite Argento films so far.
Really?
Agreed.
So this is actually one of your favorite films?
Argento films. Let's not go too far off of there.
Right.
Okay.
Well, Italian cinema is like its own thing, so that's fair. Like saying it's a favorite Argento film is pretty esteemed in that side of things, right? Like,
I don't know.
Well, if we're talking horror, like thriller
Jake.
shit.
Okay.
Was this your first time watching this film?
Oh yeah. I mean, bear in mind, I came to this group a complete newbie to Argento. I've only seen 3 of his films, and they were all for discussions here. And of the 3, I would probably put this one in the middle. It was an interesting film. It was a little slow moving, and it wasn't as exciting as it could have been. And I think, kind of like we were saying just a few moments ago with Once Upon a Time in Mexico, I think this one was a little bit less. It wasn't as tightly written as it could have been. It got a little unraveled at times, but it was interesting. And it was, as Brandon said, very different from what I have come to expect from Argento. Even based on my limited viewing, it was very different from what I would expect. I still like Phenomena best of the ones I've seen, but
Ooh, baby.
I actually think I like this one better than Suspiria. So yeah.
I actually like Suspiria better than this one. To be honest, although watching this one this time around, maybe some of the scenery, some of the camera angles, kind of grew up, and maybe some scenes, but I still have the same opinion. I'm sorry.
So
I
you
came
broke
around
the
on it.
streak, huh? You broke the streak.
I fell asleep several times, and I had to go back and rewind it just to be clear here, because it was terrible dubbing, terrible.
Well, it was terrible dubbing, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't know. After I had to rewind it a couple of times, maybe I got a little bit more out of it. But like, I particularly happened to notice that there were some really long hallways. In different scenes.
Well, since we're talking about it anyways, I mean, obviously this wasn't your first time watching it, Dave.
No, it was not my.
Give us your history with the Cat of Nine Tails real quick.
Well, I grew up watching some Giallo films, so it wasn't my first time watching it. I watched it when I was a kid, didn't really get into it. I watched it again when I finally got it from Blue Underground, and I do have a DVD copy of it somewhere here. I just couldn't find it, so I ended up getting a Blu-ray trilogy collection thing that had it on it.
Weird set too. Inferno.
I know it is a weird set.
It'd be perfect because it's Cat of Nine Tails, Deep Red, and then Inferno randomly. Like if it was fucking Tenebrae, or even Bird with the Crystal Plumage, that would make some sense. But
or opera.
that
would have been interesting.
Good sir.
Yeah. But in any case, this one to me, out of all the I've loved every single other film that we've gone on and talked about with Argento, but this one just, I don't know, just didn't work with me. Although I do have to admit, I love the ending. It's a perfect ending, but there was just a lot of mesh in between.
Well, some of that may have been lost in translation. See, okay.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we go and talk about your first impressions, though?
Oh well, thank you, sir. Basically, I bought. Okay, I started with like Italian movies right when I started getting into like splatter flicks that weren't just your general crap. You know, I kind of went through like all the franchise shit. And then collecting random movies I used to rent as a kid, but I wasn't renting like Italian fucking horror movies, you know? So once I hit like Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, I kind of was at an impasse there. And then thankfully a buddy of mine hooked me up with a tape that had like Tenebrae and The Beyond on it, you know? And that's kind of where it started. And so immediately I went and bought like, you know, House by the Cemetery, which I did do a review of.
Well, that's Lucio Fucci.
It is, but you know, that's what I mean. You start buying Fulci flicks and Argento flicks when you learn about Italian horror. That's just what you do. And this is one of the first ones that I bought, and I think I watched it like once back then, but at that point I'd already seen Suspiria, Tenebrae, Deep Red, you know, Opera, all the other like more violent crazy ones. So Bird with the Crystal Plumage and this one were both pretty underwhelming to me back then. You know, this time around watching this for this discussion was probably the third time I've watched this. I think I watched it once when I bought it, then once again when I did a marathon of all of like the Argento movies that I have. And then that's it. Like I never bother. I didn't even bother to pull it off the shelf to watch it this time. I went on Tubi and I watched like the whatever fucking, I think it's the Blue Underground one maybe, or an Arrow one or something. And but I watched it completely in Italian this time too.
The thing about it is,
I'd like to.
Is even though I've watched this film like 3 times, I still don't know fully know who the killer is. I mean, I'm still trying to figure it out.
What do you want me to tell you now, or do you want me to wait?
Oh, by the way, there may be spoilers.
We're probably gonna spoil the crap out of this film. So
it makes very little sense, anyways, you know. And I think that's one of the areas where the movie really dropped the ball after building up very good to it. But my impressions of it, I think this time around would count as first impressions, because I don't know that I got the proper like plot to it even when I watched it on my DVD, which is like definitely not an Arrow or a Blue Underground. It's a really shitty budget copy of Cat o' Nine Tails.
It's a little bit different when you're gearing up for a discussion, because then you really pay attention.
True. And then, you know, seeing these, honestly, it made me want to watch more of these Italian movies in straight Italian, because then you're getting the actual script, you know.
Okay, so we got a little bit of the plot in the IMDb description of the film, but basically we have a blind guy, a guy who ends up being like an ex-newspaper man who evidently uses a little girl to get around, who ends up calling him a sweet little name. And I actually think their relationship is actually kind of cute. Okay?
It is. It's adorable.
It's endearing, and it seems like the little girl is like happy to be in his company and being able to be his I hate to say this, but almost like his blind puppy dog to get him around to.
Oh yeah, she's totally his service dog, but. Like I don't know if it comes across
in the wrong way.
But I don't know if it comes across in the dub version, but in the Italian version they do explain that like she lost her parents when she was super young, and you get the idea that whatever accident caused his blindness is why he's also familyless or whatever. So that's why he takes her in, is because he doesn't have a family and she lost her family.
And that part I get. And now also we have another newspaper reporter who evidently is investigating a murder that happened the night before, which apparently on the same night the blind guy, he has actually heard something that was like outside his building or something like that, and it just so happened to, I think, be the murder that had happened. And
well, it's not a murder at that point. The guy knocks out a security guard, and breaks into the.
But it certainly looks like a fucking murder, because
you know?
I was gonna say, garrots him to death, doesn't he?
No, he clubs him and then he chucks him in like some closet or something with a stool that's also covered in blood. It's like, holy shit, that guy's dead as fuck.
Darn close to murder.
And then, I don't even remember when or where this apparent doctor was killed. That was later on, told about that was part of the pharmaceutical stuff.
Whoa! How did you not?
That's a pretty big plot point.
Or is that the guy who got ran over by the train? Or
yes, that was the guy that got run over. Yes,
absolutely love that fucking scene. I rewound it like 5 times.
And that one was definitely a murder there. I would like to think.
So basically the initial thing is a break-in where apparently nothing is stolen, but this doctor knows better and decides, because he doesn't know better than to try blackmail, I'm going to try blackmail. and then he has a date with a train.
Which he explicitly says is not blackmail in the discussion in the
Yes.
car that the blind man overhears before the bludgeoning and the murder.
Right.
And that makes it not blackmail, I guess, because he says so.
That's a pivotal moment in the film, I think, because that's what the blind guy overhears the conversation and he's like, "Wait, what?"
Well, that's the beauty of the whole thing to me, right there.
A little girl. Who's in that car over there? You know,
It's a guy with brown hair.
It immediately establishes Cookie as like the sly cat, black or blind dude that fucking goes around just picking up on things that people say because he lives like his entire fucking world in blackness and relies on his ears, so that's kind of a running theme through the, like, he doesn't even really witness the bludgeoning, he hears it.
Yeah,
he's working on his crossword or whatever,
which is why he's automatically basically runs into the news reporter and asks him what's going on, and when he tells him about the apparent murder, he's like, "Oh, what time did it happen?" And that's when it dawned on him that he might have actually been kind of a witness to this murder.
And that kind of explains why Cookie is attracted to the whole thing too, because he's like an ex-journalist who makes puzzles for a living. Like his whole deal is he wants to solve puzzles, and one slowly starts developing right outside his apartment window, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's sort of like a Rear Window. There's just like he's not got any resistance to it. He's drawn to it. I mean, shoot, he's doing puzzles and everything as they set him up. That giant crossword, the art piece that he's doing later on. I mean, where you scratch off at the sheet. It's just, I mean, it really sets up the character, so you know who he is and what he's about right then and there.
Right, and how sort of jolly of a character he is with the little girl Lori and everything. Like later comes full circle when it gets serious and you start to see some desperation. I'm sure we'll get to that, but
though there were some moments that made you wonder, well, maybe he's secretly
right. Yeah.
Red herrings there.
No, did anyone catch what the name of the pharmaceutical company was named? Or
shoot, I don't even remember my own name half the time.
Can you ever just be upfront with us right now? I have such a fucking hard time remembering names of characters in any of these Italian movies because they're not like names of characters in most of our movies, where it's like or Lucy or something. They're like 3-syllable names a lot of the time. So
it's the Umbrella Corporation.
Well, Carlo Giordani is the main detective, or
Giordani. Is that how you say it?
Giordani, yes. Carlo Giordani is the name of the character of the young newspaper guy. Franco Arno is the name of him. And
so
Terzi is the name of the little girl.
Well, I like to think
what was the name?
Anna Terzi.
Okay.
Oh, wait, the little girl, Anna Terzi was the fucking one dude's daughter, right? Allegedly.
No, Terzi was the name of the guy that runs the clinic.
Yeah. Okay.
So what do you guys think of what do you guys think of the journalist, dude?
That was the hero. I mean, he was the obvious, I'm the hero of the story. He kind of spoke to that in many ways.
Yeah, he's
right.
Not quite like
in and save the day, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't like the excellent good guy, but he was definitely the lead character type. There was no doubt. in my mind there.
Well, he was there for a story, and he didn't even get all of that story because evidently that board of directors was hiding something involved with the death or whatnot. And I think
that might be a point that's kind of lost in translation, maybe, because at least in the Italian version, it very much was made clear, like 2/3 of the way through, that his story was fucked.
Yeah.
But he was just in it to help them at that point, you know.
Oh yeah,
So.
pretty much. I don't think it was that badly. See, I didn't hate the dub, but I just thought that it was. I just felt like it would be better I'd get better out of it with the Italian.
Yeah.
I mean, there are much worse dubs. Matter of fact, on Fantasy Mission Force.
Well, it's like watching a lot of anime. I'm sure you guys are aware. Like,
yeah.
sometimes things are pretty. Well, yeah, some of them, you know, and same goes for live action movies. You know,
True.
They're bound to do it really, really good, like at least a certain portion of the time. But especially the older you go with it, the more egregious the shit can be sometimes. Where it's like,
no doubt about
that's not even fucking close to what he was saying.
Actually,
You know?
even though I'm very used to reading subtitled movies and watching them, I am not an entire fan of watching subtitled films. I would prefer to listen to something in English, not have to read something while I'm watching, technically.
See, honestly, dude, I don't even think about it. Like, it's just so, but it's such second nature to me because probably similar reasons to Brandon and Jake, anime, foreign movies.
An awesome story's an awesome story.
After I watched all of those fucking Zatoichi movies back in the good days of Hulu, where they just had the full Criterion collections on there for free for no reason.
There's a difference between an awesome story and an understandable one. So,
true.
And there were parts of this movie that I just could not understand, and it was so slow in moments. I guess I fell asleep through.
Well, reading probably would have put you to sleep even harder, but
you really have to be awake for this particular story. I will admit, it is not. It is a very complex story.
It's not
and
watch either.
And I know Brandon can tell you a lot about being put to sleep by Italian films.
Oh yeah, Il Postino. I could have put that up there. I fell asleep every time I got through this like the second part of that film. I've never made it through the whole film. So I couldn't do second chances. I never got through the first.
Shit. No, you're right though. This is I was telling Dave that before we even got in the first chat earlier. Like, you have to be in the right mood and you have to be ready for a movie like this. It's not, something that you just watch when you casually throw on like a horror movie.
You didn't even know of the character who. I mean, I guess you got to know who the killer was, but here's the thing: you never got to see him, or even have anyone remotely talk about his character being involved with the pharmaceutical company. And
okay,
to the very end.
Oh, he's talking about the killer at the end.
Yeah, the killer. The full of that killer.
I got some shit to say about that when we get there, because that is wow. But I don't know, man. I mean, like, what do you guys think of the general? Because there's not much to say in characters. There's so many of the inconsequential characters, I think, in it that are just there to be part of the mystery. Like, really, the main characters is fucking, Cookie and Lori, and then DiGiorno or whatever the fuck, the guy that is like the journalist dude.
Giordani.
And then I guess that Anna chick that's like the daughter of that one guy. Other than that, everyone else is just like players on a board kind of.
She's there to be the flirtatious rich girl that has a daddy.
All I know is that stupid ribbon outfit she was wearing when she was first introduced was super distracting, and she has 70s ass, which is just not attractive to me.
Well,
that is lily pad right there, bro.
They made it seem like her walking across the room was such a thing, too.
Because that outfit, I'm sure it was designed by someone that like gave them money for the movie, so because they're Italian, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's those are kind of the main characters of the deal. The other people just sort of are
Costume design by Carlo Leva and Luca Sabatelli.
Catherine.
So there you go.
Was the name of the actress who played Anna Jersey.
But I mean, what do you guys think of the plot, like overall? Because basically the deal is that they're trying to solve this series of shit that has gone on because of someone breaking into this place to steal information on what you think is like some cure-all drug.
Once you learn who the killer is and what his reasons were behind the whole thing, that's kind of how you figure out I guess the plot. Evidently, the pharmaceutical company stole the idea of this man. I guess.
Is that the plot in the dubbed version?
I think so.
Well, a lot of it has to do, according to what the dub, and this, I may have it wrong. I may be like completely off base. So,
well, I just finished this before we got in here, so let's compare notes, bro.
So what I'm getting out of this is that this pharmaceutical company is all about genetics. And they believe that this certain particular subset of genetics has a link to people who are killers and violent people, which is real science that does exist. And there is a guy that was found that has said link. And this apparently was not only found out, but there's also apparently some sort of blackmail being utilized to reveal the identity of said link, and hence throwing everything into motion.
See, that's a lot more. That is overall the plot, but at least in the Italian, like proper fucking dubbed version, for the vast majority of the movie, they think that whoever was doing this was coming for the other drug, like the miracle drug that they were working on.
Well, yeah, that was their thought, but it wasn't.
Yeah, really. It makes more sense, and and sort of right when they realize, like, nope, it was probably this other thing, is when the movie gets serious and poor Turkey's like all distraught.
I guess all of these details just kind of got sucked into the plot of what was going on, and I guess it didn't jive with me entirely about what was going on behind that. And maybe lost in translation. That's what kind of lost me in the film.
Well, it could be some of that, and to be totally fair, the movie is, comparative to the other Argento flicks, which I'm sure we'll talk about more at the end. But it's a bit of a chore if you're going into it thinking of that other stuff, or you're not like in the mood to chill out. This is very much a like chilled out afternoon movie when no one happens to be home type of flick, or like a home sick with the flu type of a movie,
Oh, yeah, you gotta be like willing to just sit there and lose yourself into this film.
Mm-hmm.
There is no looking at this plot and going, I'm just gonna watch this in the background while I'm doing my laundry.
No, sir. You have to be like immersed in it.
So
I was trying to immerse myself into it, but I don't know. I guess I got more out of like the different shots. Like I mentioned, there were different shots of long hallways, and there was that one shot, that long white hallway with I don't know what it looked like, curtains or doors or whatnot, but there were several long hallways that I remember.
Well, it's Argento, baby. Like, you have to have like a scene with weird lighting.
A long hallway with that one dude who was I actually kind of like that guy, who could actually open up locks and shit like that.
Oh, what was his name? Gigi the Loser. That guy fucking ruled. That was like the best character in the movie, really, and he's the only one that was like, "I'm just here for a bit. Fuck off. I'll see you later."
Gigi, the Loser. Yep.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. You
Nothing
get like,
wrong with that.
that's jumping ahead a bit. Never mind. Continue.
Well, I like the way he was speaking because the newspaper guy came to him because evidently he knew him for some reason or other, and evidently he's like an unsavory kind of a character or has been, and he says that he wants to be on the up and up, and then when he actually says exactly what he wants them to do is just open up a few drawers or whatnot and go into a house. He's like, if I get caught breaking and entering.
Yeah, I love that fucking part where he's like, he just immediately knows the sentence for it, and he's just like, okay. Gigi rules.
Oh yeah.
See, okay. Like this movie, you said this is Argento's second movie after Bird with the Crystal Plumage?
Correct.
You can tell. I mean, like but you can see those seeds of things that went on to later Argento movies for sure. And then stuff like there's a humor in this movie that we don't get enough of in other Argento movies, sadly.
Well,
I was gonna say the kills are very Argento.
Yeah,
they are, but there's like and I don't know if it translates as well in English or whatever, but there is like a good humor to this movie through a lot of it, you know. Gigi is a good example of a character that's in there randomly as like comic relief, you know. And then the characters do make quite a few jokes to each other throughout the movie, so there is like a lighthearted comedy element to it, up to the point where Laurie gets kidnapped. Then that's when the movie fucking takes a turn for the shit. This is serious.
Well, yeah, and I guess I could say I like the scene later on where the newspaper man goes into the crypt and tries to retain this locket that holds like this secret that evidently they were supposed to expose in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know how it led up to that either. I think that's one of the moments that I fell asleep in.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what was her name? Beatrice or some shit.
Bianca.
Bianca. There you go. She went to a dude's car in the parking garage and got that note, like the dude that got pushed in front of the train, which we did not give that moment.
Oh yeah. That moment led up to the part where the newspaper man actually called a photography buddy of his, and he's like, "Hey, this blind guy is telling me that you should take a second look at that photo." Yeah,
that definitely fucking happens, but
but then I actually have to say, what the hell was he strangled with?
Some crazy ligature foo, man. It happens later again with what was her name? Bianca. Just hits her with that ligature foo, and he has her in a death grip for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, it was just the way that all of a sudden you heard like something like a whip, and it was like wrapped around his throat, and that part was somewhat chilling.
Well, yeah, and like I was saying, that's where you see little bits of that future Argento stuff, like the room's all lit with green, all weird. You know, like any other movie, it'd have been red, but it's Dario Argento, so it's fucking green. Maybe that is a thing with photography. I don't know, but it's, you know what I'm saying. Any other movie, it'd have been red light. And so he's trying out some things there for sure. You know.
I had a question about that too, and I wonder what y'all know about this or what you don't. But I was under the impression that photography development, that some of the chemicals that are involved were rather flammable.
Yeah, he's just smoking away.
He's just smoking away, and I'm like, that can't be right.
Well, it might not be right, but it's what they decide to do. It's like having a movie scene where you've got one of the tough guys smoking as he's getting gas.
Yeah, I was just about to fucking say that.
I can't think about that without thinking about Zoolander.
Everybody in Hollywood, from the independents to the ones that are in the mainstream, were smoking up a storm, no matter what they were doing. I mean, in an American Christmas Carol, the guy was smoked up a storm and blew up the factory. So to me, smoking has always had something to do in Hollywood, and.
To a point, yeah. You think of it during a certain era, for sure.
Well, smoking and drinking was just a regular part of life back in the day. That's why.
Some of us are keeping it alive, you know.
Well, you think about it. That's why The Lost Weekend, for instance, the fact that it won an Oscar for just winning Oscars like it did was such an amazing thing because, well, I mean.
But there
that
again,
was unheard of.
Yes, but that actually dealt honestly with the issue of alcoholism. This one, my point is, this does not deal honestly with the issue of flammability.
No.
No. If we, one of us who decided to go into one of those old school photography things, decided to light up a cigarette around the chemicals, I'm sure we would have blown each other to smithereens.
Right.
Or in the very least, like ruin the pictures somehow. I don't know.
Oh, they definitely ruin the pictures because I do know that film is very, very, very heat sensitive. I mean, that's definite. So yeah, this guy's a professional photographer. That was a major goof I had to call it on.
Well, and since we're talking about kills, you know, well, first, what do you guys think of when after he had been strangled, when he slit the dude's face with the scalpel or whatever?
I think that
really needs a hobby.
Well, and every serial killer needs a character trait.
Well,
signature
calling card.
And that to me made it obvious it was at least one of the doctors, which I thought could have been avoided, you know.
Well, yeah, that was the idea. That was actually something that they thought about later on, is that precision. Wait, no, I'm thinking of a different movie. Never mind.
well, but still, I mean, even later, I think he was using like a different knife at the end of it. It wasn't even a scalpel, you know. So it's like, why put that in there to sort of already narrow it down for the audience right away? But shit was.
I didn't entirely pick up on that either. That it was a scalpel. Maybe I was trying to focus too much on the background instead of, you know, just trying to enjoy the story, as it were. I guess for this film, maybe it might need a few more times for me to actually maybe.
I think it'll hit for you much like it, because, dude, I used to be bored to death with this, you know? Like I said, when I watched Suspiria or Tenebrae or Deep Red or any of the fucking, like, more flashy Argento movies.
This time around, I will say that some of the shots and angles, like I said,
for sure.
On me. I guess I liked that whole kill scene with the photographer. That was kind of a Hitchcockian moment. Argento has kind of become known as the Italian Hitchcock. So.
Right. And I mean, there's even other cool stuff that they did. Like, there's a fucking car chase in this movie, dude. What other Argento movies can you think of where there's like fucking car chase?
Oh, yeah.
Not really at the moment, because it's been a while since I've actually.
Dude, the car chase in this is hysterical. Like, there's like a couple of fucking pretty funny moments in it where like they almost nail these old people as they're crossing the street, and then this other car almost nails them, and they're like, nope. The
Oh,
part where
yeah, I
the
remember that.
first car goes past the dudes, and then as the cop cars are like, the guy turns with his hose and he's like, "These motherfuckers right here," and as the cop car goes by, it sprays them in the window and shit. Like
Yeah.
there's all types of little things like that, and I think honestly, that's where this movie maybe gets sort of lowered down the rungs and overlooked compared to the flashier Argento shit, is because a lot of it's pretty subtle. Even the soundtrack is pretty subtle compared to his other movies. I think just as effective, but it's not, Goblin or anything.
Well,
No,
it's not Goblin, but it's Ennio Morricone. I mean, that dude knows how to make some music. So.
For sure. No, I'm not discrediting it at all.
I do like little bits and pieces of the soundtrack.
The main theme bangs, but a lot of the other stuff is very subtly. It's not one of those soundtracks where it's supposed to be like catchy tune, like it's not Suspiria or anything.
It's kind of like like the moments where you hear like some
Well, it built the tension really well, and the moments where like stuff got tense, the soundtrack, it did its job. Like it was a functional soundtrack for the most part. It wasn't there to be like, oh shit, I'm gonna play this while I work on stuff in my garage type.
Yeah. I think that it was actually. I think the music did its job, and it did its job in a flamboyant enough way that it was actually pleasant enough.
It shows shades of what he would do later with soundtracks.
Oh yeah.
I recently just rewatched Suspiria again for the first time in like at least like a year or two, and this time, it's like every time you watch that movie, I think you sort of pick up on like a different reason that you love it. If you do like it,
love that movie for the specific reason of supernatural elements, and the fact that the lady that's in charge of the school was the head of the family in Dark Shadows. So
there you go. Suspiria to me, like I like it as a movie, and then I also like it as just like a piece of fucking, I don't know, art or whatever.
Oh yeah,
it's like a prism. It's less a movie and more like a weird prism glass that you look through to see different things.
Yeah, but that's the thing with Argento. Even his earliest works have that artistic touch. So, when you looked at Suspiria, you could tell it was D'Argento just for the colors that he used throughout.
For sure.
So, it is he leaves his mark regardless. Early, later, it's there.
Yeah, but I think something like Suspiria is him just going buck wild with it. You know what I mean? Whereas this is his early years. I think this is him at a more balanced stage, honestly, in Cat of Nine Tails. It's not, he's not going full artsy fartsy on you. It's just a classic whodunit that has some cool style to it, And the characters for the most part are pretty likable, like Lori and Cookie and DiGiorno or whatever the fuck.
Giordano.
Those guys rule, And the rest of the characters in it are slimy enough that you don't really care when they die. Or do you guys get that vibe from any of these people?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah, for the most part.
The characters were. I don't know. I liked most of the characters throughout this. So.
Yeah, it's just how the elements of the whodunit were played out. I'm not necessarily sure if they were as ageist as they could have been, as defining as they could have been, I guess the broader strokes of the subject matter could have been a little bit more explained.
I'll just go ahead and say it like this. The ending of this movie fucking sucks. Okay? Like, I like that he falls down the elevator and shit, but the reveal is so anti-fucking climactic. It's not any of the people that you thought it was. It's just lame. and there's not much it's like, okay, dude, so you were one of those people that tested positive for murder or whatever, so just don't murder. To me, that just seems like the obvious solution.
I understand where he's coming from in one aspect. There is a stigma when it comes to it, and I'm doing this from more of a professional perspective because this is part of what I do for a living. When you profile somebody, let's say you've got a child and you label that child as conduct disorder. Every teacher suddenly looks at this as the bad child.
Right. No.
It doesn't matter whether the child is good or not. So if you look at this and it gets out this guy is like, oh, well, he's a murderer, then he's never going to get a fair shot at anything because people are going to look at him as like, that is just he's just a murderer. He's just a bad guy.
That's the thing. Okay, at least in the Italian one, it made it pretty clear that the dude that was blackmailing him was just the only other dude that knew about the file. He'd already gotten rid of it, but this dude was like blackmailing him with knowledge of it.
Well, yeah, that's the idea. Is
so again, he could have just killed that one dude.
Yeah. Well, you can never just kill one person. I mean, it's like potato.
Yeah, you have to kill a bunch of people, but that was one thing I took issue with. What?
Once you pop, the fun won't stop.
Like, the ending is fucking lame. I don't know. I don't think it was as interesting because they build up this whole, like, what's that, a red herring with the fucking the journal in the guy's safe and the daughter's like background where you find out that she's not his daughter or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'd have made her the fucking killer, dude.
I think it would have been interesting if they'd made the blind guy the killer.
That too.
Yeah.
Because there were definitely signs that would point to him.
They were hinting at possibilities that it could have been him too.
Well, and I think that's what they were doing with the chick that was like really the dude's adopted daughter that he'd been, at least in the Italian translation, having sex with for a long, long time. It was pretty fucked up, and
yeah,
you know, so there's a lot of people. There's at least those two people they set up that could be the killer.
Well, and the killer had actually tried to poison him. The
milk
newspaper dude with the milk.
How the fuck did he not like who? Okay, I took issue with this shit too. Who pours milk that's been compromised? Fuck that. Like, if my milk is broken open, I'm not drinking it. What the fuck is that?
I do like those containers that they use for milk, though. That's pretty
Well, in Canada, you get it in bags, man.
Yeah, well,
but who drinks compromised milk? You guys drink milk, or it's like, oh shit, this stuff's been leaking since however long it's been on my porch. I'm just gonna go ahead and pour it in a glass. Is that?
Yeah, it's good. Actually, no. I bet there probably are people that would be like, they'll pour it out and they'll be like, is it chunky? Nope.
No, I'm specifically asking you, and your insight into this is telling, Jake.
Oh, no, I would not. I would not. No, I would not. I'd be too paranoid.
Dude, I won't drink, like, if the milk gets down to those little nubs in the gallon, I won't drink it. I don't know why. It just seems disgusting to me. But yeah, that shit was gnarly. And I don't know, man. Like, I think the way it all progressed up to the point of the reveal was amazing. You know, I was hooked into the story. I was like, these guys are going to crack the case. They're having a good old time. Now it's gotten super serious because someone's abducted her, and then it's this fucking guy.
I mean, that part where they're in the mausoleum, they go in there, they find the evidence. You know that there's a struggle going on, and then you see the blind guy, open the door again after he gets trapped in there, and he's got that bloody like blade at the end of his cane. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself,
that cane.
This would be the climax.
Yeah, I totally thought he was the killer right there. And I'd seen this before, but I totally was like buying into he might be it, you know.
I have to admit, I was starting to nod off there at the end, so I lost track of part of it.
Damn you, Jake. That's like the best parts. And then he's told he's not the killer. And see, okay, again, there's another swerve right there, because when he gets that call telling him that, like, if he doesn't come get the girl, her throat's going to be cut, at least in the Italian dub, it was a lady's voice on the phone.
Did the little girl get killed, or was she actually still alive?
No, she's screaming at him at the end. She's
Yeah,
like, Biscotti, because that's Cookie, I guess, in the town. Biscotti! Like, that's what she calls him through the whole movie. You know, like those biscotti things that you get with your coffee or something.
So we've definitely gone through the plot. We've gone through many of the characters. Is there any other character that we want to discuss before we go into the special effects part of this discussion?
I don't know. I'd have to think on that one. You got any suggestions, Brandon?
I don't have anything else character-wise. I mean, we've already definitely, as you said, we already definitely hit the plot pretty darn well.
Okay. What do we think about the special effects of the film? Brandon?
Well, I mean, the special
They were
effects
of their
wise,
time.
Yes, they were. But you know, I mean, it was the kills were actually fairly well on point. That's really where D'Argento shines, and at the end of the day, is his kills, and he does an excellent job with them. I mean,
they're all pretty good. The train sequence, I think, is the one that obviously would be the show stealer.
That's just fun.
Yeah, the guy's face hits it in slow motion, and see, that's a staple for some reason of Italian special effects, is like
slow motion.
The initial part of it being like the face hitting something slow. You know, there's a part in House by the Cemetery where they drag the mom down the stairs and her face hits every stair, and they for some reason thought it would look really cool to film it and like, you know, a slow sequence like that.
Of course, you probably hear every crack, crunch, and grunt.
Yeah, there was definitely that with the train, like his face hits the thing. And
we'll have to go down a Lucio Fucci road fairly soon, since we've hit some Argento this time around. But,
I'm down, definitely. But yeah, I think the effects were okay. There was a couple of questionable kills in this bitch, though. Like the lady that literally munched carpet to death. What did you think about that?
That's one way to put it.
Well, I mean, how else do you put it? It's like they told her just bump your chin on the carpet and then just start like putting this Elmer's glue out your mouth and then lick it and bite it, you know. That was her kill scene, and it was really, I mean, come on. That, at least the dude that fell down the fucking elevator, granted, it looked like he totally could have survived that impact at the bottom.
Yeah, because he kind of landed on his feet, didn't he?
Pretty sure that was just a stuntman they dropped from like 5 feet up or something.
Well, you'd think if he dropped all the way the fuck down there, he would have at least broken both his legs.
Yeah, that's what should have happened.
Yeah.
He would have at least splattered to either side, and you would have seen bones on the wall.
And he's just alive for a minute still, and then he dies. Like, that would have been fucking sick. Instead, we got, his feet are gonna hurt for a couple of days, and then she's like, cookie, or biscotti, and then that's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
At least in the version I watched.
Yeah.
It's a fucking classic whodunit, man. Like, it's just the reveal sucks. Like, I don't know. Are you guys all okay with it being that random doctor guy? Or
I'm not okay with it being the random doctor guy. I was expecting something different, and I think maybe that's what I had. If it had been more than that,
it feels like they built it up to a really sweet point, and then they were like,
who do we?
Whoops, we don't really know who we were gonna make the killer here.
Well,
it's this guy.
Hey, he's an extra. Let's put him in there.
He was literally there to explain the XY chromosome thing. That was his role in the movie. It was that guy.
I did not hate I did not hate how they made it. Him at the end, I thought that it wrapped around. They definitely set it up for that payoff, but I admit it would have been. I would have liked it better if they had made it. Well, if they had made it one of the other people at the end.
One thing I did find intriguing about the killer that I think they did pretty well was they showed you a lot from his vantage point, like through his eyes. But whenever the camera was turned on the killer until the reveal, it was like ultra close up of the eyes. And that was it. That was all you see. And I'm like, that was kind of a neat way to do it in a sense.
I thought so too. Like whenever he killed, you saw like his pupils.
Yeah, that was beautiful and like unnerving at the same time.
Yeah,
that was amazing right there. That was
whenever you kill, you see the cracks in the eyeballs.
There's even that comment, like, do you remember? Well, I don't know how they played it off in the English dub, but when he went to the gay bar to talk to the German professor,
right.
The one guy even looks at his eyeballs and he's like, "Oh, that's rare, like blue eyeballs with red sort of shots or something like that."
Yeah.
The way they phrased it didn't particularly make sense, but it was like, well, this guy's commenting on his eyes and they keep showing those eyes. So it made me think about like, what color is everyone's eyes?
And it builds association. So later on in the movie, when it's not necessarily, when their life is not in danger, I believe it was the crypt scene where they utilized that again, but so you're thinking that a murder is about to happen when it's not, and I think that was an excellent payoff.
For sure. The whole fact that it wasn't Cookie at that point, because they made it feel like that, dude. The DiGiorno or whatever was over there like, stay the fuck away from me, bro. I don't want any part of this.
That reporter was like, I don't know. You look like you're gonna come kill me with that thing.
Well, I didn't trust him for a moment there because for all intents and purposes, it almost looked like he's the one who slammed the door shut himself.
It could have been, yeah. The way it all plays out, it very much builds to is he the one? But then once you see how concerned he is for Lori, that it's not him. But we got to give a nod for a moment too to how decently that guy played a blind man, I think.
Oh yeah, the acting was excellent.
It was Carl. I mean, that was Carl Malden, who actually is an Oscar-winning actor. Was, I should say, but yeah. So he could act.
No, he still is. Just because he's dead doesn't mean that he didn't win an Oscar.
That's true. What's up?
I mean, he had some very good acting jobs throughout this.
Actually, he got his Oscar for one of the movies I nearly put up for this discussion, which was A Streetcar Named Desire.
God, that one was an intensity ride right there.
It was. But if we ever do the second chances again, that may be my choice.
I think it should be a yearly thing, honestly.
Sorry.
I prefer Streetcar the musical.
Is there a musical right there?
I'm referencing the Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
But it's to me, yeah, I really do think that we should try and. I mean, it would be kind of cool to do this as have a November be thankful, and then the second chance for the first part of the year. I really think that those go quite well together.
I think we could definitely do another second chances. Sure.
Oh, there are plenty of movies that are on that list.
Oh yeah.
No, dude. I've been revisiting quite a few lately, but yeah, I'll try to hold off on some of those.
Somebody actually posted. Was it on your? Was it on Moe's Tavern that the guy was posting about disaster movie? You would know
Oh
it,
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And I was like, okay, there's
yeah.
one. I'm
You're
not
like,
sure I need
I
it.
don't
Just
like that, but the Alvin and the Chipmunks shit was good.
like I
Okay.
say, it just shows that anything can have like a redeeming quality
We
to
should
it.
I tell
Yeah.
you, if I ever get a physical copy of Titanic: The Legend Goes On, that might be one of the choices.
we should seriously do a whole full ass discussion on the scary movie 1 through 5 in
Oh,
I'm saying Toxic Avenger before that. The like Toxie, you guys got Toxie 1 through 4?
I do.
I do.
That'd be a dope one.
Well, take a moment and do a trauma night. Definitely, Ellie.
So,
Well, maybe
We
we,
used to
we can
have,
revive my Trauma Tuesdays idea that I had a while back, which is where you just stack a bunch of clips of like reviews of trauma movies and then start releasing them on Tuesdays.
I had 2 people on here that actually knew Lloyd Kaufman, which was sad because when Shakespeare Shitstorm comes out, it would have been an excellent opportunity if we could get him to come on. That would be a good possibility.
Well, you still talk to Dane, and I still talk to Dane. Maybe we can convince him to come back on, and hope to God that Dustin bows out for that.
Drama.
All right. So, do we have more on this one?
I don't think.
Well, I think it's particularly clever too how they worked the title of the movie in there, because lots of shit does that where it's like, oh shit, he just said the title of the movie. But in this one, it comes across very casual, at least in the Italian dub.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's part of a conversation, and that's.
Did anyone have a favorite moment or scene from film? Brandon, did you have a favorite scene that you may have liked?
Oh, mine is pretty obvious on there. It was that it was that scene where they're in the mausoleum. That's just freaking awesome.
Did you notice how her eyes were freaking open? The cadavers.
That happens, I guess. And in a lot of the countries where they don't necessarily embalm you right away, like I'm assuming this was.
Oh yeah, that was just like suitably creepy, and that was quite. I mean, like I say, that was just all of the stuff that builds through that scene. It's just an amazing scene. I really, really enjoy it.
It is. It's telling of the whole movie too, because you go down in there thinking you know the people you're going down in there with, and by the end you're questioning one of them, and that's because it really is trying to be one of those whodunits where you don't know who done it, right? Because that's the fucking point.
Right.
So,
And I really think that explains a lot of. I know your dislike of it is, you feel like you should be able to solve it, and the way that they wrap it in is in a way that it really makes it hard to say, well, I can solve this, because you really can't, because you're looking at it and saying, I have no. Wait, where did that come from? So I understand where you're coming from with that. I know that there's been some buildup, but it's like some of the later Saw movies where later on you're like, okay, I can see where that attaches, but there's no way I would have been able to put 2 and 2 together before the end of this film.
yeah, it takes a little bit away from the holy shit moment when it's not something that you could have suspected the whole time, you know?
Exactly. So I can understand, most definitely.
Alrighty, Jake. If there was a scene that you could take away from this movie, a favorite, what would you say it would be?
It's hard to say. It really is. I'm not sure that anything
Because you
leaps out.
feel like you were neutral on this film.
Mostly. I mean, there were a lot. I mean, again, there were several moments that I thought were fun. I admit that one part, that car chase where the old folks after the second car, they were just like, screw this. I thought that was pretty funny.
That water hose shit is good too.
Yeah. And there was, you guys mentioned Gigi the Loser. I'm looking at IMDb shows one of his quotes that I do remember this and thinking that it was pretty funny at the time. And that's the line, "Nothing's easy for me. I can't even knock over a chair without getting caught."
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of fun.
Of course, when they're walking down the hallway, he pretty much trips on his way down the hallway. So.
And yet, when they get into the room, he actually did seem quite competent as a lockpicker. And I was kind of intrigued watching him get out his little tool set and doing all that. Now, so I thought that was kind of a neat little scene.
All the stuff with Gigi.
Yeah. And the old blind dude was pretty cool. He had some good moments too. I admit, I like that cane too. I thought that was cool. Yeah.
I think it endeared you pretty quick to the main characters, you know.
Mm-hmm.
For one, I would recommend everybody watch the Italian cut of it.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I wish that it was on Shudder, because Shudder has only the English dub. Which,
dude, it's on Tubi.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
I just need to go. Yeah.
Yeah, you
I
guys
was like, I
Tubi,
paid
man.
for it.
Tubi is better than most of the shit I've ever paid for, honestly, because it has like a constant stock of the type of horror movies that I like to watch. I think if Dave gave it a real go,
that's all right. I've got a bone to pick with Shudder anyway, because they stole. Basically, I wouldn't say they stole my money, but they basically they took it, and then 1 hour after the due date, like, oh, sorry, you've bought a year already, no refunds.
But I don't know, man. I think this fucking movie has great characters, great writing, great everything, and it builds to just a conclusion that sucks. You know.
I say it's a good movie overall. I have no dislike for this film. Matter of fact, I like it. As I said, I like it better than any of the D'Argento films I have seen thus far, and that includes Suspiria. So, you know, that's me. Now, Suspiria is probably the second favorite, and then Phenomenon, and then I think what was that one? Red, something Red.
Deep Red. I missed
Deep Red
that.
was probably my
Profondo
least favorite.
Rossi.
Deep Red.
So that wasn't D'Argento. Oh, never mind.
See, that was kind of like my first sort of real. I'd seen a couple of these, but then when I first started paying attention to the differences of it was with Deep Red.
Am I remembering, Dave? Am I remembering correctly that Boy Omega one we did was Fulci?
Yeah. No.
Bowie Omega is not Fulci.
Okay, well, I don't remember who that one was. I will say,
isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I liked all three of the Argento ones. I saw much better than that.
See, Italian shit was like the stuff that I do. When I first got into like splatter movies, air quotes, fucking, that's the stuff that I thought you had to buy was Italian shit. So
See, I love me some Italian cinema. A lot of it, but of course my bag is not so much the horror as the other.
We were definitely not watching the same shit.
Well,
of course, we had this running joke of yes, the running joke.
Fellini can only be a 10 in art. He's the only one who gets it.
Yes, which
I was definitely that kid. Go ahead, sorry.
I have said many times to Brandon, and he won't believe me. I'm like, Stanley Kubrick is every bit as pretentious as Fellini, but yeah, he won't believe me.
No, only Fellini is as pretentious as Fellini. But
no, you can be pretentious in different ways. I was definitely that kid in the death metal teacher that was at fucking Hastings buying like every Italian horror movie.
Don't get me wrong. I don't hate Fellini for the most part. I don't like 8.5. But
I love 8.5.
I need to check
but I
out
don't.
his La Dolce Vita and his
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah,
uh,
and
his
I love spaghetti westerns. I
Mhm.
love the Man with No Name trilogy. That is Italian cinema at its highest.
Sergio.
And
Mhm.
yeah, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, an Oscar winner. Some deserved, some not so much. Uh, it was a. I mean, they talked about that, the spaghetti westerns, of where they took, because when the western genre in these states got tired and boring, it was
The
the
bottom fell
Italians.
out of it. Yeah,
Yeah, it was the Italians that revitalized that stuff,
for
that
sure.
made it awesome by basically mimicking Japanese cinema. But
I've been trying to tell my Star Wars
yeah.
friends this for years because it's like eventually fucking comic book movies, the bottom's gonna fall out of that, dude. And then it's gonna
Oh,
be just like
eventually, yeah.
westerns were back in the day. Like they made a ton of them, and now nobody wants to see them. So then you're gonna get like dope fucking overseas versions of shit.
Right.
They didn't want to fucking believe what I was saying. This basically confirms exactly what I was talking about. You know.
Yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
I could see an Italian filmmaker like oh geez, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. I hate to say that. The guy that did Il Divo, and some other
Yeah.
really badass films. Let's see here.
See, I always feel like such a pleb when you guys fucking mention like actual movies because my knowledge is limited to like video rental nerd shit, you know?
Well, that's the
Uh,
thing is,
And
that's
it's
why
like,
I watch
oh
your
yeah,
channel, because you have
yeah.
knowledge of stuff that I have no knowledge of,
right, and
and
vice
So
versa.
I watch that. Like a good example of Fellini. What was it? The one where they had the woman who was playing basically the clown perform. What was that movie?
was that
Jacob, you know all of
Lestrada?
them. Lestrada. Lestrada was
Yeah,
an excellent film,
I love Lestrada.
and this is the thing. Italian cinema. It's artsy cinema. People always point to the French cinema as that's the only real artsy cinema, but
Yeah,
that's bull.
Uh,
yeah, I think I like it the Italy style a little better too, for my personal taste at
Well,
least.
yeah, I would say if we, because, and actually, we were just, we just did the discussion on Rodriguez, and we were talking about how he had that strong Tarantino flair to a lot of his stuff. But yeah, if you want to see an Italian dude who has a Tarantino flair to his filmmaking, the guy I was trying to think of is Paolo Sorrentino, and he did Il Divo and The Great Beauty, and there were a couple others. I think there was another one I saw, but like he's very stylish, very ultra stylish. But I feel like there's almost a Tarantino sensibility to what he does. It's a little darker and more violent than Fellini film, for example. um, but yeah, I'd like to see, you're talking about revitalizing the comics. I'd like to see an Italian remake of Kingsman by Sorrentino. That'd be cool. Or something like that, or something crazy like Sin City, or dark like that. Or maybe he could be the one to bring Invincibles to the big screen, or Invincible. I mean,
Yeah.
that'd
I'd
be
be
cool.
down on that.
I mean,
But
shoot, I would like to see a lot of things to the big screen. People look at comic book movies, and indie movies used to always get the stuff like Dark Man or The Spirit, even, which I think is underrated, by the way. But
right.
I mean, always think that Samuel Jackson's like over the top performance is just one of my favorites. In that,
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah.
Dude,
but
underrated fucking comic book movie is The Shadow.
The Shadow.
The Shadow, yes, indeed. The Shadow.
Yeah,
Yeah, speaking, we've got to get
Fucking
to Dead
rules.
Gentlemen some of these days with the
Yes.
gamers movies. But it's it's like just I mean, you've got different fun things with cinema,
Yeah.
and Italian cinema like Argento is something worth holding on to.
Yeah.
So as much as I
Hmm.
don't necessarily love the giallo film genre, I understand the importance of it.
Right. So it's like when you find a movie that's decent in the genre, it's sort of like how you feel when your dad shows you a Western or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I
Like,
mean,
it's
I've
not my bag.
always, when I saw spaghetti westerns for the first time, I had been like, because westerns bore me when we looked at the traditional western from the United States. But when I saw like Clint Eastwood as the man with no name doing his stuff and taking down all the people, that right there, I was just like, oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. See, I knew that much, but when I discovered that fucking basically spaghetti westerns are samurai movies, that's when I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
yes, sign me up. You know,
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yojimbo and Sanjiro, which are just which is basically
dude,
the
you
like
guys
those are
ever,
freaking awesome.
if you guys are ever ready for that shit, I will go fucking hard with you guys on some samurai movies because that
Right.
We've
was my
talked about
bag for like a while.
Mhm.
we've
Zatoichi.
discussed Kurosawa,
Yeah. We did
Kurosawa, and
Kangemusha.
yeah, we did Kagemusha.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'd be good to hit some of the others, no doubt about it.
Sort of
Shoot,
do.
Seven Samurai. We should
Sort of
do a man with
Dude,
no
yeah,
name
really. I mean, because
Kurosawa.
no offense, I'm sure I would love your Kagemusha discussion, and I'm down to listen to it. But saying you fucking did Kagemusha and not the other Kurosawa stuff is like saying you played Fortnite and now you know how to play video. You know what I mean? I played Fortnite, so now I understand video games.
Also, we did a discussion on Kegamusha, and then I think later I did a review of my own on it. So definitely check those out. I don't know whether I said anything different.
For sure. And,
Oh yeah,
and view them as a precursor to an eventual Kurosawa quest, I think.
I
Well,
also,
That we need to do.
I also
the
went on.
time I edit and post my Kagemusha review, it'll be time. I
that's
have
the thing is there needs to be a if you do something like that, you have to do them parallel. In my opinion, you do Seven Samurai, you should do the Magnificent Seven, not the remake, but the old school
Oh, the
one.
remake was good though, but yeah,
And
it would
Well, you got to do Hidden Fortress. You
Yeah.
got to
oh
do
yeah,
all that shit. What was that one that they basically did the Kagemusha shit in beforehand?
Well, I
Dude,
know.
that whole saga of movies is so nuts to watch through, and definitely like maybe I was following that Mishifune dude or whatever. What's his name?
Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah, like I was just fucking with this shit hard because I loved him so much because of Yojimbo and stuff like Rashomon.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went nuts with that dude, and he was in so many fucking samurai movies. It's insane.
well that's the thing is like there were so many awesome ones. I mean, shoot, my favorite Kurosawa movie isn't even a samurai flick. It's the one where they were talking. I think it was like a murder thing.
Oh
But
yeah, he's done some stuff like that too, for sure.
it was.
There's
I
one
can't
where he
think of
plays a detective in the Bronx, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is when you look at these types of cinema, when you look at Italian cinema, it pulls from so many different cultural roots.
Mm-hmm.
It just, yeah, it's just an amazing thing.
It
I
is,
think
and
we've,
especially when
yeah.
you start thinking about the fact that so does ours. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, I've got most Kurosawa on Criterion, so and Zatoichi because they decided to put them all in one nice neat set.
you beautiful bastard, dude. I want the Zatoichi stuff so bad.
I ended up getting a Masterworks edition of Akira Sawa, which has most of Akira Sawa's stuff put on
You
it.
gotta start collecting that Zatoichi dank, bro.
Seems like Japan just ended up like copying the Criterion collection and putting their own masterworks together. So in this nice little box set that I've got.
Yeah, my father was a big Zatoichi fan. Well, still is, I guess you could say.
I still need to find myself a copy of that box set. It's out of print.
But the Criterion one's out of print. Oh no! That's you're talking about the other one.
Dude, I don't give a fuck. Zatoichi is one of those things. When eventually I have the money, I'll pay, however much I have to get it. Because
that was it's a beautiful set too. It's just like one heck of a set. If anybody sees it at their like Barnes and Nobles or on when Criterion does their sales, and Criterion themselves do sales. I was just recommended. It's just an awesome looking set. I still need to get the last movie, which has been re-released on Blu-ray. I've got it on DVD, but it's one that needs a full. Darkness is his ally.
So I feel like we've gone a little far afield here.
Yeah, I think we've strayed a little bit when we talk about cinema, just foreign cinema in general.
Yeah, we can do a whole fucking thing on the Zatoichi movies alone. Yeah.
Well, there's so much that could be done. And one of these days I'll be putting forward our newly minted Best Picture winner because it's so awesome. But who knows?
Oh yeah, Parasite's just awesome.
Yes.
We should start doing our own Inside Movies Galore, awards.
Oh,
awards for
all categories, dude.
Yeah. Okay.
Best, all our shit that we would have elected for Oscars or something.
Well, yeah. If everyone pulled their 2019 films, we'd have an interesting list.
Well, and then we vote on those 20 and get them down to a final 10 or something like that.
It'd still be crooked as dick, dude, but it'd be fun.
All right.
Well, that's if we've seen all the 2019 films that are out there.
I've seen about 60.
Well,
good gosh, you talk about a hard task. Seeing all of them, my God.
Hey, you know what'd be fun? Just go back in time and do our own Oscar. Start with whatever the earliest year of whatever. Who's the oldest year?
29, I think.
You're only 29.
Oh! You said the old. I thought you said the oldest year of the Oscars. I'm sorry.
Out of the people here, I am the oldest. I am 40. So.
You know what?
Wait, Dave's not 40.
Do we have any months in the future that we have not set up a thing for?
David, are you 40 years old?
I'm 35.
I'm 35. Yeah.
Wow, I keep forgetting you're younger now.
Actually, come to think of it, I think me and I want to say me and Dan were born around the same year.
We can start our award years with the earliest year of whoever was born here. Which, if it's in the 70s, dude, that's totally cool.
Hey, 1979 had some really kick-ass films.
Yeah, I would love to go back to those years and all of us come up with our nominations and then have people in the groups vote on what they are the best, movies of those years.
I was reminded today of a movie from '81 that I have never seen that I really need to see, and I need to make a point to, I guess, if we do this, because I have never seen Cannonball Run.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah. Imagine presenting a fake award that we build physically.
The original Cannonball
movie that nobody gives a shit about anymore. I mean, that sounds like an awesome activity for the internet.
All right. So,
with that being said, I think we should be wrapping up.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Did I ruin the vibe here? I'm sorry.
Because let's see. Well, why don't we go ahead and start talking about where we're from and who we're about?
Well, I'll go last. So, Mo, why don't you go first?
And don't forget to plug next week's movie, because I think that's yours.
Yeah, that's yours right there.
Tis true. I'm just a dude. I watch movies sometimes and talk about them. If you want to come to my channel, it's Drunken Master Studios. It's not very good most of the time, but I do my best. I just recently came off like a huge swoop spree, so if you want to see a bunch of fucking pickups, it's the place to be right now.
Actually,
his editing skills, ladies and gentlemen, are better than mine. So he undersells himself.
shoot, you got something coming up with the Rebel Gaming Club too, don't you?
So maybe. I don't know.
That was some, like I say, that's how I first got introduced, was just listening to that stuff, and that's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that our close. I'm just waiting on Dan and them to basically get a bunch of alien shit together. It's probably my own fault. Like, I shot the Close Encounters review with this dope, like, UFO backdrop and shit. So, he wants to put together, like, obviously, like, an alien-themed episode around it.
Yeah, you look at, watch him on the Rebel Gaming Club, because darn knows that's how I got introduced. I watch every episode once I see it.
For sure, sub those guys up and just grab these guys as well. Honestly, man, I look forward to this stuff every week with you guys. It's been a godsend to me.
That's the same way we feel about this discussion group. It's kind of what keeps us going, man. At least I think so. So I mean, I'm glad that I've gotten to know all of you. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I look forward to this every week, just like my comic club that I do with my buddy Retro Sean and Kroll from EverQuest. I don't know how to introduce that dude. But every week I look forward to that, and that's like clockwork. It's I might not always be, what do you call it? Like, none of us here are trying to fake that we're fucking professional reviewers or anything. We're just dudes talking about movies, and
that's more real. Amazing. I think that's more real than the review,
and it makes us better at doing reviews. Well, I think it makes us all better at it.
I think so too.
Because we're used to talking about it with other people, with other influences and shit. And this is like my favorite thing that I do every week, man. It's this, and I'm talking about my bro, like, Spawn or some shit with my bros on Comic Club. And that's not even a broadcast deal. We're trying to work on like making it that, but and largely that's inspired by this shit. Because I love talking about movies with you guys, man. And I think more of you guys out there that are listening right now should probably start doing it yourselves,
Oh, yeah.
And then start doing it with us. Get in here,
right?
Right.
Okay, going over to Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, well, my name's Jake. I am a big-time movie fan, anime fan, comics fan, music fan. If it's media, I probably enjoy it. And as you who follow this know, I like talking about these things too. So I'm very active in the YouTube channel Septum Sin versus the World. We've been doing a whole lot of Oscar-related stuff lately. For as much as we love to bitch about the Oscars, they're fun to talk about. And they got most of it right this year. They mucked up the nominations, but tried to make good during the show. So it's okay.
Surprised the heck out of us.
They just need to fire whoever runs sound for their live telecasts. And then I also have my own YouTube channel, Kotobuki Jake. It's dedicated to nature and the natural world. There's a handful of videos up. Once my new computer is acquired and running, there will be a lot more videos. One day. Not to mention,
you don't start updating that, Jake, I'm gonna go full play Misty on your ass.
That would be creepy.
Of course.
I finally saw that recently, actually. And also, obviously, I like hanging out on Inside Movies Galore, where I'm here quite regularly, and we often show up on Delusions of Grandeur, as we did tonight with our discussion of the Mexico trilogy, which was quite fun. And as I said on that one, we have some upcoming projects of note. I have my birthday picks coming up soon, where we have a twofer of Sullivan's Travels and No Brother Where Art Thou to end out the month. That's going to be fun, so tune in for that.
Well, my name is Septum Sen of Septum Sen versus the World. We are a YouTube channel that glorifies in the collection and enjoyment of physical media. Matter of fact, I just picked up the last of the Yakuza sets on physical media, so I'm really happy with that. But we also like to look at the stuff that's coming out and finding out, by the way, that that Amazon has apparently seems to be phasing out a lot of their physical media, which is kind of sad. But that's I mean, shoot, they don't have any listings for Jojo Rabbit or Ford versus Ferrari, which are coming to pretty much all the major stores, Target and
That sounds
Best Buy
really
and Walmart.
strange.
It does. So it is a sad thing that we look at, but we are adapting with the times. So keep up with us. We're going to keep up with you and with the new releases. We also have a lovely thing about Oscar discussions coming up. Our last one, which we discussed the winners and how we did with our predictions, which
Yeah.
oddly enough, we were for those that we actually missed. Most of us were not. We weren't
Weren't
that
you only off by
disappointed.
one, Brandon?
No, I was off by 7, but
I was
still,
off by 10.
it was trust and believe. It was an amazing night that we all were looking at and saying, "Oh my gosh, we were wrong." But you know what? It doesn't feel bad to be wrong. Sometimes when we were right, we were
I
more
think a
like,
lot of your guys' wrongness was probably due to established patterns within the
Exactly.
organization and not you guys.
We were believing that it was going to be just as boring and white toast
Yeah.
with the wins as it was with the nominations. And
Trust me, dude. You guys have been getting me through work for like the last 3 weeks. Like that's been my jam. Is your guys' channel, and
that's gonna be. Oh, sorry.
I feel like, no, I just feel like that.
But that's gonna
You
be
guys,
the end of it.
Unfortunately, fell fucking victim to the way of the, what do you call it?
well, I'd be
The beat of the drum.
I'd be upset if I put any money on it, but I didn't, so it's good.
Yeah, it's like I say, I'm perfectly happy. Last year's my prediction going to something good and it going to Green Book, that was a disappointment.
Yeah.
But this year, the fact that Parasite won as many awards as it did,
I was stoked for them and you guys.
And the real test of skill is how do you do on
I feel like one of you. Go ahead.
I was going to say the real test of skill is how do you do on the short films. I got 2 out of 3, so okay.
I got. Yeah, I was thinking I got most of them myself, so I don't really feel that bad. But it was, like I say, it was a good night. And if you all want to see our picks and hear about how we did, you can listen to our Friday feature. And then we said we were going to talk about our best movies of 2019, but we're going to give ourselves another couple of weeks to just go ahead and see if we can catch up some more, and then throw that down. But
we're going to do that when the Oscars should have aired.
You guys mind if I hop on that? I'll submit a clip if you want to use it in your episode.
Which one?
Best movies in 2019.
That was an interesting sound going on.
Hey, if you want to submit something, that's perfectly fine. We're doing it as a vlogcast, so we would just we would add it to the sound clip.
Yeah, dude, I'm down to submit that all the time.
A vlogcast for that one? Oh. Well, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
But we
I'm
always love
sorry, I was
doing our
totally
work.
trying to jump on your shit right there. I just wanted in on that, you know.
Hey, personally, we love having compilations when we can get when we talk about working with people. It's
Right?
always good. And speaking of working with people, of course, I do help out with Inside Movies Galore. I've done a few reviews for that channel and movies of grandeur, and I do help run the upcoming movies. So, of course, our last upcoming movie of Second Chance Month is Mo's movie submission, which is Evil Dead Trap 2, which I'm guessing has nothing to do with the Evil Dead. Um, but one can hope. Any case, with that being said, also, we even have decided our March,
Yes.
which is going to be called Music Lovers March, which is essentially films that we thought the music had significance in, and we thought the music was good. It just takes those two. So it could be musicals, it could be Barney the Dinosaur movie, it's any one of those types. But all the movies that are submitted have been submitted for it. So look for a poll appearing next week, so that we will have our lineup decided on Jacob's birthday week
And
at the
Brandon
end of the
likes
month.
to scare people. Don't worry, Barney movie is not on one of the choices.
Well, even if it was, you guys would be the ones to get voted out, you know. But
Well, I don't have a copy of the Barney movie, so I will probably
Are you sure you don't?
I'm quite positive. And I will end that note with I hate you, you hate me, I chase Barney out of the tree. No. In any case, my name is David Straggy. I am one of the founding fathers of this podcast here. But I run it with many of my brothers here in films. So I enjoy coming on here and talking about films with you guys. It is one of the things I look forward to every week, and it gives me a chance to come outside of the box and go on about a film that I'm uncomfortable with at times, and it is not necessarily that I hated this film in any way, shape, or form. There were aspects of the film that I liked, but it is what it is, and whether it's retributionized or not, I guess that's out to the general public whether they entirely enjoyed it or not. And I guess I'd like to ask the general public out there what you thought of the film if you've actually seen it, and whether you thought that ending was right or not. So, in any case, I also do film reviews of my own on my own channel. I try to give my thoughts and at least explain some of the movies that I know and have, and now that I finally have the editing skills that I think that are decent enough to go on about. And I really enjoy going on and talking about them, getting to know the filmmakers behind them sometimes if I can, especially if they're independent. So definitely check out some of those reviews. I just went on about a couple, and I'll have some more film reviews coming out in the semi-future. So I definitely backlogged, just like your friend. Except you're probably ahead of me right now with the Anademian project. I'm kind of jealous. But in any case, tuned for more exciting stuff. Not only are we going to go on about Evil Dead Trap 2, but for the pre-show discussion, we're going to accomplish the first one, and we'll let you know what we think of the films as we come out about them. So stay tuned and have a great evening, everyone. Stay away from those cats. They have 9 tails. Extremely violent.
Yes.
In any case,
Indeed.
night.
Night all.
Good night, all.
Good night, guys.
Buonanotte, I guess.